Hello and welcome. Can you give me the double thumbs up? Good. And well you might, because Boris Johnson, our Prime Minister, has told us, hasn't he, that we can all come back to school on the 8th of March, and we are really looking forward to welcoming you all back to school. It's going to be brilliant. Now, what do you think this is? Well, it's one of those milk bottles, but I tell you what, it has not got milk in it, and it is absolutely solid. So what's in it and what's it for? Let me help explain by sharing my screen with you. Just a moment. Now, plastic pollution in the deepest ocean. The Mariana Trench is the deepest point on our planet. There it is, the deepest point on our planet. It's found in the remote part of the Pacific Ocean. It stretches down to almost 11,000 meters below sea level. 11,000 meters below sea level. That's how deep this trench is in the ocean. Many millions of tons of plastic enter the oceans every year. Rather a sad fact to consider. And you may have seen videos of plastic floating on top of the sea and of sea animals trapped in plastic, where, of course, all the plastic in our oceans finally ends up is not well known. Researchers have been studying the deepest part of the ocean to find out if it has been polluted by this plastic. The Mariana Trench. Researchers collected bottom water and sediment samples from 2,500 meters down to almost 11,000 meters below sea level. So they went down between those two depths. And they found that the concentration of microplastics got bigger as they got deeper into the ocean trench. The plastics they found were fibers a few millimeters long, probably from clothing, bottles, packaging and fishing equipment. And they also found a plastic bag, like the kind you get at a supermarket, in the deepest part of the ocean. Scientists study the ocean through underwater dives, and scientists also send submersible underwater vehicles or submarines down to take photos and videos. These photos and videos are stored in a database that is a collection taken from 5,010 dives over the last 30 years. That's a lot of dives. Lots of rubbish was recorded in the database. Some of the rubbish found included rubber, metal, wood, and cloth, but plastic was the most common. Plastic in the Mariana Trench. Most of the plastic, 89%, was single-use plastic, just like that bottle. Single-use plastic is something that is used once and then thrown away. Things like plastic water bottles or plastic cutlery are single-use. Some more examples. The Mariana Trench. Even though it is very deep, things like coral, jellyfish and octopus live in the Mariana Trench. The study of the Mariana Trench showed that 17% of the plastic had an impact on the things living there. This study shows us how serious plastic pollution, how serious it is to our planet. So how did it get there? Some parts of the Mariana Trench have higher levels of pollution than some of the most polluted rivers in China. Plastic can get into the ocean directly if rubbish is blown from the beach or thrown from ships on the sea. A different study found that most plastic in our oceans comes from 10 very polluted rivers. These rivers run through areas where lots of people live, people who use lots of plastic. So what can we do? Reduce and recycle. Join a river cleanup. Support bans on single-use plastics. And ask shops and restaurants if they have plastic-free alternatives. Okay, now, this is a PowerPoint that Mrs. Wick has shared with me, and she wanted me to share it with you today. It's got lots of interesting facts. 51 trillion microplastic particles. That's 500 times more than stars in our galaxy. Clutter up our seas, seriously threatening maritime wildlife. 51 trillion microplastic particles. 8 million tons of plastic enter the ocean every year. 26 to 1, that's the ratio of plastic particles to plankton in some places. 26 plastic particles to each piece of plankton, each creature. 11,000 plastic particles per year are consumed by anyone who eats seafood. That's an extraordinary thought, isn't it? As we eat the seafood, we're consuming those tiny microplastics which are inside the seafood. So these are really dramatic bits of data to inform our thinking. 90% of the ocean plastic pollution is from 10 major river systems in Africa and Asia, and 80% of the marine plastic pollution comes from land. Leo. If you remember, LEO stands for Lochinvar's Environmental Organisation. And Mrs. Wick has taken over the leading of that important group, which has proudly taken its place at Lochinvar and has involved you as pupils, has presented to us as a community, and has done some fantastic work throughout the years. So the question, is there a place for plastic? Bit of information. Plastic was invented in 1907 by Leo Hendrik Baekeland, a Belgian living in New York. Plastic is made from a mixture of oil and natural gas. Plastic creates $13 billion of damage to marine ecosystems annually. 8 million metric tons of plastic enter the ocean from the land each year. And if things continue as they are currently, by 2050, that's the year 2050, there will be more plastic than fish in the ocean. Currently, we produce around 9.1 billion tonnes of plastic waste, but amazingly, only 9% of this, 9% of this is recycled. 12% of it is incinerated, burnt, with a staggering 79% going to landfill or into our natural environment. Plastic waste gets smashed up by waves into microplastics, a term I used earlier. And if you look at the picture of the little finger, the little dots of plastic covering the finger like grains of salt, these are microplastics that have been broken down from larger plastic items. 46,000 pieces of plastic are floating on every square mile of ocean. And of course, these little microplastic particles are then swallowed by animals and they enter into our food chain as we eat things like fish. The main cause of the rising amount of plastic waste is packaging. In 2015, packaging made up 42% of all plastic made, and 54% of plastic that was thrown away. This turtle thinks that the plastic bag is a jellyfish, but will not be able to digest it. If this happens a lot, it will have a full tummy of plastic bags and stop eating until it starves. So, the Little Leo project is to create an outdoor classroom. And Mrs. Wick and the Leo team want to create a place for the plastic rubbish which would otherwise end up in our oceans. And the aim of Little Leo is to create eco bricks out of our non-recyclable plastic waste to build an outdoor classroom. We need as many eco bricks to achieve our aim, and that's where that milk bottle comes in. What is an eco brick? That was the thing I showed you at the beginning. All you need is an empty 4-pint milk bottle which has been cleaned, and you will need its lid. Then you fill your clean bottle with all the non-recyclable plastic packaging you have around the house until it is completely full with no air, absolutely rammed full. And then you simply put the lid back on, screw it tight, and you bring the finished product to Mrs. Wick when it is full. And this is something that I am challenging you all to do in the time before you return to school. To come back with your eco bricks for collection. There's a second element, and that is a senior Leo project, and this is about creating insulated blankets, and to do so from a collection of clean, crisp packets to reduce plastic waste and create insulated blankets for people who are homeless. Again, all the crisp packets will be gratefully received by Mrs. Wick. So this is about collecting clean, washed and clean crisp packets, which will be created and made and joined and fused into these amazing insulated blankets for use by people who could really handle them. So there you go. There's the project. Eco bricks. Non-recyclable plastic has been put inside this 4-pinter. The lid's been screwed on. It's absolutely solid. If I try and squeeze it, I can't. Packed. That is an eco brick. Mrs. Wick wants you to make them, bring them in, and give them to her for that amazing Little Leo project to build an outdoor classroom out of these things. Can we do it? Won't know until we try. And then crisp packets without the crisps, cleaned, flattened, brought in for collection again by Mrs. Wick to make those extraordinary blankets. I noticed that this crisp packet has my name on it. Walker's. Must be mine. So, don't eat too many because healthy diet, but when you are having a bag of crisps, hang on to the packet. Wash it out and clean it. Dry it. Keep it nice and flat. And bring it in, give it to Mrs. Wick. She's collecting them. 2 projects to make a big difference. Leo. Thinking global, acting local. Couple of things for you to be getting on with. See you really soon.